Hey everybody, Jiraiya here, coming at you with a new episode, a new video on Alien Romulus. Now, I'm going to try and keep this short. Like I said before, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details of the story specifically. Not that it was bad, not that it was... Well, I'm not saying it was bad. It was definitely pretty good. I almost said it wasn't, but we'll get to that here in a bit. There will be some spoilers, so just, from here on out, spoiler warning all the way ahead. But overall, man, that was such a good movie, man. I love horror movies. I really do. And it's been very upsetting the last, I want to say, 5 to 10 years. And I tell everybody who knows me, especially my wife, like, I love horror movies, but a lot of modern day horror movies, they just don't really cut it. Like, they don't scare me. They don't really, a lot of them aren't even... It's not even that they're not scary, just that they're very poorly made. Like, I don't feel like there's any stakes involved. But here with Alien Romulus, right? Especially, with a known series like Alien in the sci-fi setting, I feel like that could actually be very difficult to do. But Alien, obviously that series, pulled it off historically very well. They had a couple ups and downs with some of the movies, like Alien 3 was real bad, Alien Resurrection was alright, it was more of an action movie, same with the sequel, and then you had, essentially the rebirth of the franchise with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. But again, this movie, I felt like it was just such a great callback to the original Alien movie, from the setting, the kind of characters we saw, and the overall vibe. It just felt like I was watching a updated version of the Alien movie, but not in a bad way. And that, for me, that was just so refreshing, and it was so good to see all of that. Now, in terms of the movie itself, right? Visually, beautiful movie, right? I can't tell you how scared I felt just being in the theater and seeing the setting, let alone experiencing it if, like, I was in the actual movie, right? I felt like the acting done was very good. I didn't feel like anybody was making, like, very stupid, highly charged, irrational decisions. Like, there's a couple here and there that kind of, like, keep the story progressing, obviously, right? When face huggers and aliens are doing their thing, there's going to be some irrational decisions when you're scared as a dog. I don't know why I say scared as a dog, but I was going to say scared as a motherfucker, but that's not the point. My wife's laughing at me now. But, the setting, it was absolutely what you would want out of an alien movie, right? They're stuck on a massive space station, the Romulus space station. It's derelict, it's Weyland-Yutani, so they're up to no good, right? They're clearly experimenting on xenomorphs. Outbreak has happened, but they don't know that, right? And the entire time you're just biting your nails, essentially, hoping something doesn't pop up, scare the shit out of you. And even then, it's still just so scary, like, the environment that is built around the setting, right? It just, oh my gosh, like, it's not that you just wouldn't want to just sit in one of those hallways or on that space station, but it's like, oh my gosh, like, you have no clue what kind of horrors are happening, right? It felt like not only watching the original Alien movie, but it felt like playing like the Dead Space trilogy. It's like, man, like, there is something horrid around every corner, and it doesn't, not in a sense of jump scares or like there's so many aliens, but it's like, it just, the entire setting was obviously designed to keep you afraid and keep you on edge, right? The entire time during the movie, I was actually really cold. I was wearing a tank top and shorts, and there were, as the movie progressed, I forgot I was cold. I was so scared, right? And again, it doesn't rely on jump scares. It relies on, you knowing a little bit about the story, but it's like, oh, like, all this stuff is happening. Oh, you're in this horrid place. Oh, things are starting to go wrong. Oh my gosh. And it just does such a good job of keeping that up, right? And now, in terms of the real stars of the show, I'm not talking about our main cast. They're great. We'll get to that in a second. But our main cast of villains, the face huggers, the xenomorphs, and I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but like, essentially, it's a walking abomination. And when you guys see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a perfect Alien Resurrection reference, as much as it is, oh my god, that was just scary. Like, again, it wasn't super original in what it was, but in its execution, how it came to be, all that stuff, the practical effects, the CGI blend, like, it was perfect enough that I really couldn't tell what was what, and it felt realistic. Like, they didn't show, and they didn't have to show too much until they needed to show a lot, right? And that's part of what makes Alien scary. Just like Jaws, right? Alien, if you think about it, is like Jaws in space. Not necessarily like the same point, but, you know, the original Jaws movie, they didn't show a lot of shark, mostly because, you know, the shark didn't work, but it kept you guessing, it kept you scared, because it's like, oh, you really don't know what's happening. You know something has happened, but you're not sure what really is going on behind the scenes, right? And it was beautiful, and I loved it, right? It didn't feel like... There's like a couple moments throughout the movie where you're just like, that CGI doesn't look really great, but it's like, it legitimately, for me, it was like onesies and twosies here and there. The most obvious one is like an android that's also happened to be the same model that was on the Nostromo in the original Alien movie. So that actor, he's obviously aged a little bit, so they had to like AI copy and paste and slap that face on there, and it's a little unnerving, and not in a scary way, but it's just like, ugh, that's... the wife just sneezed. But it's a little unnerving just because it's so uncanny valley. But again, overall, visually, like the CGI effects were great. Practical effects, great. You don't see that a lot, especially in horror movies nowadays. I feel like you don't see that as much as you should. Now, in terms of the soundtrack, I think they did just enough, right? And what I mean by just enough is, you know, the soundtrack of, like, let's say Star Wars is designed to enhance the mood. I mean, that's the point of every soundtrack. But there's a lot of moments in Alien Romulus that were just moments of quiet, where, like, you could almost hear yourself think. Both, you know, from the perspective of the characters we're seeing on screen, as well as yourself, right? Because there are times where I'm like thinking, like, oh my god, I'm like, am I talking out loud? It's so quiet. But, you know, again, they do just enough where it's like, okay, like they do a little bit of building here, a little bit of building there, and then they have some fun callbacks with, you know, again, I'm not going to get into huge plot points, but there's an obvious reference to Prometheus as one of the big main plots / subplots, where they introduce the black goo. And, you know, when you hear that music, it's like, oh man, like, I remember that music. And then there's obviously some moments where they're calling back to Alien, right? With the Alien one, obviously, it's a little more visual, because, you know, Ellen Ripley has this scene where, like, her hair's blowing, she got her rifle. You kind of see that too with the main character. It's pretty cool. But again, soundtrack wise, did very well, right? They did enough, not so much that it stood out, but it was very subtle. And sometimes with a certain movie, especially with a movie like this, you need that subtlety. You can't just have, you know, the orchestra blaring to scare the shit out of you. It's like, no, it's quiet. It's the beat of your heart that's creating the tension, you know what I'm saying? So, soundtrack-wise, check there. Now, characters and story. With the characters and the story, one of the things you notice is there's this ragtag team of kids, essentially. I say they're kids, but they're like really 20-ish, maybe, right? Like late teens to early 20s. They're essentially indentured servants, right? They're just desperate. That's why they're on the space station. They're trying to, you know, do some stuff that'll help them, you know, get to a better life, you know. But with that being said, it's not a team of scientists and soldiers who are gonna, hey, we're gonna find the super smart way to get off this station and have it self-destruct and keep everybody alive, and we're gonna shoot everything that we see the entire time. No, it gives you a greater sense of understanding and empathy for the characters, because it feels like it could be you in that situation. At least from my opinion, right? Because there was moments where I was like, one of the characters gets to their is asked, "Hey, do you know your way around a gun?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." He was like, "Yeah. How do you know?" He was like, "Played a lot of video games." Bro, that's everybody. That's me. That's you. That's anyone who's played Call of Duty thinks they know their way around a gun. But then you get a gun in your hands, and unless you've actually shot one, you don't really know what you're doing until, oh, I'm doing it. Now, but with this crew, like, aside from empathizing with them, right, I wouldn't say they're the most flushed out characters. Obviously, your two main characters being Andy and Ray. Andy being the synthetic and Ray being the main character, right? Like, they're the most flushed out. And obviously, you're rooting for them the whole time. But you learn enough about most of the characters to care about who they are and want to see them live at the end. Because there's some movies where you see certain characters and you're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck if you die, bro. Like, if you die, you kind of had it coming. There's one character that definitely, it's like, yeah, you're a dick. You should die. At least I thought so. But even then, like, I still felt bad about how he died, because you still understand, like, why he's upset or why he's being such a dick. Now, in terms of, like, the kind of decisions, the kind of writing around the characters, right? Again, no one is really making, like, significant, like, irrational, like, significant amounts of irrational decisions is what I wanted to say, right? No one's like, hey guys, let's split up and cover more ground. And also, let's not use our flashlights. And I'll leave my weapons over here. And also, we won't have... It's not like that, right? There's moments where they do get split up, but it makes sense in terms of what happens throughout the story. So, like, when something is happening, you don't need to question, it's like, why the hell is that happening? It's like, oh no, this happened because this happened. Because A, B, and C happened, therefore X, Y, and Z. So it makes sense. And I love it, right? Because there wasn't a moment, there wasn't too many moments where I was like, yeah, that was a dumb decision, like, where the whole theater's just, like, kind of, like, looking at you sideways, like, what the hell is that, right? And I enjoyed that. And overall, the story as a whole, it just made sense in the sense, or from the perspective of, again, this is a ragtag team of kids, essentially, right? They're not in it for, we need to study these things, for the betterment of humanity, or so we need to kill every single one of them because vengeance, right? Like, they just want to survive. They're kids. They want to survive. They want to get the hell out, or get the hell off the station and go live a better life like they were all planning, right? Simple. And I love that, right? It keeps the story very pure, very realistic, because at the end of the day, no one's like, hey guys, here's my moral high horse and my pedestal, and because of this, we're gonna do a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense. That's really it. Like, you can't ask for anything more than that. And I appreciate the simplicity of the story in that regard, is, hey, we want a better life. A whole bunch of stuff happens on our way to try and get that goal, but at the end of the day, that's all it is. We're trying to achieve this goal. Horrible things happen. We make do. Some people die. But at the end of the day, hey, we got our survivors. Bob's your uncle. We get to live in the end. At least one or two of them do. But again, you're going to have to watch the movie and understand what I mean by that. Now, as far as the pacing, again, I really enjoyed how everything felt like it happened when it needed to happen, right? It didn't feel like, oh, I'm watching a completely different movie and then all of a sudden horror movie stuff happens. No. It's like everything builds upon one another, and I feel like that is something, especially a lot of horror movies lack, is they'll build up and build up and build up, and either nothing happens or it'll happen all at once and you're like, what the hell is going on? Here it's like, oh, things are happening, more things are happening, oh, shit has hit the fan, and now the fan is just running wild, right? It made for just such a pleasant watch, because I was on quite literally the edge of my seat the whole time, right? Now, again, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. That's not who I am. Otherwise, I'm going to be here the entire time trying to make this video, and I'm just going to be annoyed. So, I'm going to leave this video off with you should go see this movie. It is very good. I loved almost everything about it, right? From the characters and how well the actors did as their characters. The writing felt good. Everything felt well-paced. The soundtrack was good. The visuals, amazing. The setting, amazing. And yeah, like, obviously they build off of what was the original Alien franchise, but again, they just did such a good job using it. Some people would have fumbled that, but here, nah, man, they took that and ran all the way into the end zone with it. Now, for the big thing, the rating, right? Out of 10 face huggers, I will give this a solid 9 Xenomorphs. So 9 out of 10, y'all. Right? For me, I'm not saying it was because it was better than Deadpool versus Wolverine. I just enjoyed this because it was I enjoyed it for different reasons than I did Deadpool and Wolverine, right? But I'm going to leave y'all with that. I appreciate you guys coming on to this video. Like, share, and subscribe if you had a good time, if you like listening to me talk, all that good stuff. Now, I'll have a video coming out for you guys soon. So, be on the lookout. Ooh! Be on the lookout for that. And I will see you all in my next video. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you. Jiraiya out.